All right, everybody, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And this one's a little bit different than what I usually talk about because as of recently, I was scrolling a little bit on Twitter, and through a random or a recommended tweet or something like that, I saw a very interesting question, and it got a lot of responses and everything that basically said, "What is that one game that turned you into a gamer?" Like a full-on gamer. And I was like, and I went back in my memory and I was like, man, chances are it's the game that you're probably looking at right now, which is Mega Man 3. Now, I gotta start this all the way at the beginning to kind of understand. Now, what I mean by like what turned you into a gamer is like, for me, the definition of that, or the answer to what that is, was basically when I had my first memory of, I'm going to sit in my room, I'm going to turn this game on, and I am going to play all day if I have to for hours and hours on end, and I'm going to get through this game. And the game that I remember having the biggest impact on that, the most time I played before finally putting it down and trying to beat it, was Mega Man 3. I think Mario was the first where I attempted, but I don't think I played it for as long as I played Mega Man. I think Mega Man 3 was the game where I literally spent probably 8 hours on a weekend trying to beat that game because I could just never get through it. And at the same time, I was 8 years old, so I don't even think I knew how to save, or if I did, I just never picked up on it. I always just started at the beginning fresh and just went through it. So, I mean, and then the thing is, it all started when I was 7. I mean, I started gaming when I was 7, and I remember I was 8 when I went through this. And like the story goes, my one day mom comes in the room, she's got this big box, and when you're 7 years old, everything is big, right? So it's this big box, and she's like, hey, our friends of ours told us about this thing, and we're going to rent it, and they said that you might like it, and if you like it, just let us know, and we'll buy it for you. And I'm like, okay. And it was an NES Entertainment System. It was regular Nintendo, and I'm pretty sure it also had the gun, or Duck Hunt as well, and it came with Mario and obviously Duck Hunt. Mario and Duck Hunt were pretty much like bundled together at the time. And I think fast forward an X amount of months later, when I got another game, or an X amount of like the following year, I got Mega Man 3. And my goodness, I mean, the game was fun and everything, but it was hard. And the thing is, I had absolutely no idea. I thought the bosses were impossible until I just randomly picked one of the bosses, because for Mega Man, as you guys know, you get to pick which boss you get to fight first, right? But little did I know that some bosses were weaker than others, and little did I know that once you get the powers from one boss that you beat, because that's what happens. Once you beat the boss, you get their powers, right? And or their shooting ability, right? And you can use that on another boss to get rid of them easier because it takes more health away from them. And I didn't know that up until like much, much later. And then as soon as I figured that out, I kept that in mind. I was like, okay, this ability is for this boss, this ability is for this boss, this ability is for this boss, and this is the boss that we start out with always, because our regular gun, pellet gun, or whatever the hell you want to call it, basically it took out the most health from this guy, so we always got to start with this one, and then we got to test out which boss we go after next. So there was a lot of replay value in that, and trying to figure out which boss you exactly wanted to go for. So in a sense, unless you wanted to ridiculously challenge yourself, and I'm sure there are people out there that do, you have to pretty much, like, it's nothing but trial and error. And I remember getting through the first batch of bosses, and I felt like I completed the game and beat the game. But no, lo and behold, there's another one or two other bunches of bosses, and they're harder, and there's a whole bunch of new levels. And I was like, holy shit. And I attempted it, and I unfortunately failed. And then once I realized how much more there is to do, I'm like, fuck it, this game got me, this game beat me. But that was the very first time that I specifically remember at 8 years old, to where I was like, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna play this game for as much as possible, and we're gonna get through it. Granted, I didn't beat it, but little did I know, I mean, I wouldn't know this until many years later, but little did I know that Mega Man 3 was, or just the Mega Man games in general back in the day in the SNES, were some of the hardest games to beat. I know that there are a lot of people out there that beat them, there's no doubt about it, but like when you're talking about, an 8-year-old little kid, and playing that game, which is a Japanese game as far as I understand. Um, yeah, I didn't know any better, but the thing is, I had fun, and that was also like the time where I really got challenged, and I just really felt like taking on the challenge. I didn't. I specifically remember, like, I don't think at that point in time on that specific day, I don't think I cared about going outside, playing with my friends outside who were neighbors and stuff like that. Because whenever the sky was blue outside when I was a kid, like I would spend the entire day playing outside, and it was a blast. I mean, if I could go back to age 8, trust me, I would do it. But but yeah, I never missed out. And obviously, in the middle of the day, you come back, you get a little bit of a break or whatnot, and then later on, you go out again if you're permitted, or if not too dark out, whatever. You ride your bikes, you play whatever it is that you do as kids. That's what you do. So, but I remember specifically on this day, I don't know if I started when it started to get dark outside, or I don't know if I just decided to make it an all day thing. But I specifically do remember spending a ridiculous amount of hours. And it was also, here's another reason why I would say this also turned me into a gamer. Because this is when I started raging. Like, you can still rage at a single player game. Trust me when I tell you. Right now, not as much. Not necessarily because games are easier. But, I mean, this is just my personal experience. Like, you rage less and less as you get older when you play. I mean, some people, at least for me, it's not as much of a tantrum as it was back then, not even close. So if I keep on dying to a boss in a single player game whenever I play nowadays, I don't really worry about it all that much. I just understand that it's only a matter of time before I beat that boss, before I figure out the pattern and all that kind of stuff. But back in that day, it was just like there were times where I'd get like 1 or 2 hits away from beating the boss, and then I'd fail, and then I'd die, and I'd have to start all over again. I'd ran out of continues, but the thing is, you guys, like, I kid you not, this is the reason why I would say it turned me into a gamer as well, because like a full on gamer at age 8, because I kept on coming back time and time and time and time again until. Because my goal was to beat those first batch of bosses that you see in the select screen, or whatever you want to call it, right? To where you get to choose the bosses. And technically speaking, from that aspect alone, since I didn't know there would be something afterwards, I actually did accomplish my goal. But it wasn't until like the next boss after that, or the next batch, to where I got my ass absolutely handed to me. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure I was tired, because if you're going for hours and hours on end, even if you're a little kid, you're still going to get tired. But man, was it a challenge. And it was gratifying. At the same time, it was also gratifying for me to know that, hey, I got through the first like batches of bosses. It's what I wanted to do. But let me tell you, I did not want to touch that game for a while after that. Not necessarily because it was that difficult, but because like I played so much that I just preferred to play something else. I'm assuming whenever I did play. So, and there were other games out there where I just didn't know what the hell to do as well. I think I also had Friday the 13th, and I had no idea what the hell to do in that game. There were times where I tried to figure it out, but I was like, I just got too bored with it for whatever reason. But man, let me tell you, Mega Man 3 is likely the game that started it all, and when I became a gamer, because when you put it all in context, when you're talking about like nonstop trying, when you're talking about the grind and the amount of hours put in. The frustration and rage of having to like lose and then lose all your continues and start over from scratch time and time again. It's like, wow. And then you're obviously trying to go through the grind of figuring out, once you do understand that that's what you have to do, of figuring out like which power from which boss should you use against this boss or that boss. So, and just like this gameplay here, which is not mine, by the way, like whenever you're watching some of the gameplays, or whenever, like I think last time I played the Mega Man on Xbox Live Arcade, you can actually go and look at playthroughs of some of the top people on the leaderboards, and you're looking at the gameplay and your jaw just drops and you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? So yeah, and I really want to know down in the comment section, what game or what system or what moment, what got you, like what was that one game that just had you absolutely just captivated, that made you just come back time and time again, and where you're like, hey, you know what, I'm going to be gaming for a very long time, if not forever. So I'm really curious to know what era of gaming was it? What console? Was it PC gaming? And if so, what game? What game on console? No matter what it is, I don't care if it's the brick, the old Game Boy brick. I don't care if it's an Atari 2600 or whichever one of the hundreds. I really don't care what console, what era, what generation. It does not matter. I want to know what game it was and what generation of gaming it was that really just got you into it, that got you hooked, and that kept you there. So let me know down in the comment section below. So that was my brief story. This video could have easily been a lot longer, but I wanted to make it because it's something that it's something that I really like to come back to. It's a pleasant memory to have, and I just wanted to share it with all of you. So let me know down in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.